Absolutely. And I love that you said, like, I mean, hearing you talk about that gave me chills because I didn't have that clarity of sight when I was in it. But it's true, like young dancers, I always kind of think to myself now, like, if I could say anything to myself back then, it would just be like, stick to your stuff. You know, if you're a dancer, then just be dancing. I think I kind of experienced everything a little out of order, which I don't know if there is an order, but for me, it was like I had this huge national television audition opportunity, and I'd never done an audition before in my life. And I had started dancing competitively as a 16-year-old in the amateur Latin division. And so I never had a junior youth. You know, I did that one newcomer event, and then it was like 3 years later, I was doing 5 dance championship level, you know. And so I always kind of felt like I was playing catch up. I never really knew what I was doing. Um, and then the same year that we went to Dancing with the Stars, of course, on set, they do your hair and makeup. And I had already been fascinated with this glam life since I was a little girl. I mean, I love it. I'll try any hairstyle. I love to mess around with the makeup and play. I remember watching a Miss America pageant. I was probably like 5 years old and just looking at their eyes and being like, how do they make them look like that? Like from an artistic point of view. And then staring at my sisters as they do their eyeliner, you know, like, how do they do that? And then when we went to Blackpool the same year that we were on Dancing with the Stars with the UVU team, I did the makeup for the team. I don't even know how it happened. I just kind of like had some gear and I was like, can I try this on you? And then the director, Scott Asbell at the time, was like, let's do that look. And so then it was my first time doing dance makeup for like a competition. 8 dancers, they all had to look the same. And it, looking back, it's probably one of my favorite best looks. And it was the first time I'd ever done it. So it was kind of like, I've always just kind of felt like I've just been thrown in and like, okay, are you going to sink or swim? And I've totally sank at times. But then when I sink to a spot, it's like I figure out how to kind of like live there for a while until I can figure it out. But absolutely, like being cut from So You Think You Can Dance was so intriguing. At the same time, it was devastating because I was picked up by a modeling agency a year or two after, and they were friends with my sister. And she kind of like the lady who ran the agency reached out to my sister who was working with her at the time and was like, "Does your sister want to come in and get headshots? We have a photographer." And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great," because as a performer, you always need stuff like that, even if you're not really actively working. People just want, you know, stuff. And I've been teaching already and just doing my competitive stuff still. And so I showed up and she convinced me to sign with her. And then I got some commercial jobs because actually of my look. I had like this short kind of brown bob with like bangs, and it was very marketable because it looked versatile. I could be any age, you know, any ethnicity. And I worked for a Marriott commercial. And then later, Hallmark with another group. I was dancing because, you know, as a dancer, I could get some work. So anyway, it did wind up kind of like pushing me that direction. And I'm not really sure how that happened, but I have this theory now that I've come to understand where it's like, if you need to go east, you just start walking east. And before you know it, there's somebody passing you that's heading east too. And they're like, do you want to ride? And then you kind of, that's kind of what happened. It was like I auditioned for the show, got cut. And then I met a bunch of people that also were kind of still going that direction. And so I just kind of got pushed along. And that's honestly been my whole dance career. It's been amazing to look back at it because it's like I can flex so many different muscles in this industry. And it's been so enjoyable to see kind of like what my deficiencies are and what my strengths are and where I like to create and where I kind of fall short. And I don't know if that answered your question, but
No,
I've enjoyed the process.
no, absolutely. Absolutely. And something that I want to kind of hit on there is this idea of, in improv, we say yes and. In the dance world, I feel like one of the responsibilities of the follow is to be open and receptive, and then to take whatever the lead is giving you and build on it and create something beautiful to live in that moment. I think from a career perspective, you're talking about just that, being open and flexible to the yes and say, okay, I thought I was going through this door. that didn't look like that was the path for me. So I'm just going to keep walking and see what else comes along and then say yes to that and see where that takes me. So I think that's great. And I think that's a good mindset, especially for young dancers in the industry or young performers in general to take is just be open, have a plan, but plans change and adapt and completely redirect at certain times.
Absolutely. And I love that you said, like, I mean, hearing you talk about that gave me chills because I didn't have that clarity of sight when I was in it. But it's true, like young dancers, I always kind of think to myself now, like, if I could say anything to myself back then, it would just be like, stick to your stuff. If you're a dancer, then just be dancing because you're going to have more options when you're just working on your craft. Like you said, like one door is going to close, but see if it'll still open. Like give yourself more tries. I had that one audition where I got cut and in the moment I just thought, oh, I'm never going to do this again. This is a horrible feeling. And then what wound up happening is I did it a ton more times. Like I kept doing it. And I don't know if I'm just like glutton for punishment, but I love that now. I love that feeling of people being like, no. And I'm like, well, watch me do it twice and I'll take pictures. Like I'm going to do it. So yeah, I think that's so accurate. I have this rough plan of where I want to go, and it's fluid. I now have learned young to allow myself to change because I was convinced as an 8-year-old, well, I was probably 5, but I was convinced I was going to be an Olympic level gymnast. And I had this plan that my parents had created with me. They helped me kind of like take the appropriate steps. And then in 7th grade, it changed because I changed. And it's been really interesting because we've all been the past couple months in the same situation where life has completely changed. And what happens is when you have change, what it really is opportunity. And I've been really exercising my thought process to be this way rather than change means it's over. Rather, change means you are free. You can do anything. And I love now my life when I think of it in that frame of mind. Like you have so many more options. You can always have a new choice. You can always move on into the next thing. And what I love so much about being in the ballroom industry in particular and in the dance industry is you have all these options. I mean, look at us here. You're a dancer, a teacher. We've worked in the studio together. I've seen you teach your group classes. And yet here you are on a professional level doing something totally different, but it's totally related. And this is one of the things I love the most. I would love to judge eventually one day. I would love to do some emceeing or some presenting. And every time I get an opportunity within the dance industry, it teaches me how to do something else. If I just make the parallel, teaching taught me how to be a good business person. Opening my own business taught me how to be a good mother. It's like, you can make all these parallels. And so that's been really enlightening and enjoyable for me.
Yeah, I love that. And again, it goes back to being open to where life takes you and then making all of those connections along the way. I like the fact that you said, being a dance teacher made you a better business person. That's 100% the topic that we had last week with Michael Johnson. Being a better business owner or being a business owner then made you a better mother. That wraps back around to some of the conversations I was having with Krista several weeks ago about learning to balance life and motherhood and also professional responsibilities and wanting to see that professional growth. I love that. And change can be scary. I think Morgan just put that in the chat. Beautiful words, hope. Change allows growth. It can be scary though. It can be scary to say yes and to take that leap of faith and to shift gears, but it can be so rewarding.
I have this idea where if you are scared of something, do it like right away. And in gymnastics, we call it throwing it. If you have this scary trick, the idea is like, just throw it. It doesn't have to be pretty, but just like throw yourself into it. And it is terrifying. That's kind of what makes it fun, right?
Definitely. Definitely.
That little adrenaline.